The levels of the human nafs. A person's nafs is constantly changing. 5 levels of a person's nafs are differentiated according to the proximity or remoteness of its possessor from Almighty Allah. The first level is an-nafsul ammara, nafs that repeatedly commands evil-doing. It constantly pushes its master to sin and makes him negligent. About such nafs, the master and imam of the Sufi, Junaid al-Baghdadi, said, "An-nafs al-ammara, nafs that commands evil-doing, encourages spiritual destruction and serves the enemies of man." By the enemies of man, Junaid al-Baghdadi means the worldly life and Satan, which makes sinful acts attractive to the sons of Adam. The second level is an-nafs al-lawwama, reproachful nafs. It reproaches its master for committing sin. The third level is an-nafs al-mulhima, inspirational nafs. The nafs of this level instills goodness in its master and encourages goodness. The fourth level is an-nafs al-radiyah, contented nafs. This nafs is contented with the authority of Almighty Allah and His decision. It displays complete obedience to the Almighty and accepts everything that Allah chooses for it. The fifth level is an-nafs al-maradiyah, nafs with whom the Almighty is pleased. This is the nafs which has won the favor and contentment of Allah, perfect and Almighty. Upon attainment of this degree, the murid takes the first step on the path towards true knowledge of Almighty Allah. Chapter 2. The cleansing of the nafs. Know that nafs has veils of nur, light, and darkness. The path for him who wants to clean his nafs from those veils is in fighting his nafs and opposing it, and the root of such opposition and struggle is in detaching and isolating his nafs from its habits and doing the opposite of what it desires every time. Do not think that cleansing the nafs is an easy thing, and that you can resist it solely by the power of reason, as some philosophers believe. On the contrary, the purification of the nafs is similar to the treatment of a seriously ill patient, which should be done under the constant supervision of a skilled physician with extensive experience. Thus, the cleansing of the nafs is possible only under the supervision of the Prophet ﷺ, or a wali, righteous person who has knowledge and experience in this matter. There is no hope of bettering one's nafs until the spiritual heart, which is the ruler of the human body, is cleansed. After all, it is only through the improvement of a ruler's moral qualities that its subjects also become better. Truly, the treatment of the nafs is a difficult issue that cannot be cured at once. It requires constant repetition. After all, the nafs is like an untamed animal that will not obey its owner, which he cannot keep in check unless it is pulled by the bridle. 3 ways of cleansing the nafs. Truly, the conquest of the nafs is possible in 3 ways. The first way is to deprive the nafs of all its desires and passions, just as stubborn animal becomes compliant if it is fed less, so the nafs becomes obedient if it is deprived of what it desires. The second way is to burden it with the load of ibadah, worship. Truly, with less feed and an increase in the load, a stubborn animal losing strength becomes compliant. The nafs behaves in a similar way. The third way is to ask for help from the Almighty and Most Great Allah in the struggle against one's nafs, imploring Him for support, for He created the nafs and He knows better its essence and condition. Know that Almighty Allah told us what path to fight against the nafs and has explained the methods of its purification. Thus, if a doctor talks of the dangers of a person's favorite foods, explaining that their consumption will lead to various types of diseases, the person will refrain from them, thus demonstrating willpower and opposition to his nafs, are indeed the words of the prophets endowed with mu'jiza, miracles, and the speech of Almighty Allah and the holy writings, less meaningful of the advice of a doctor whose knowledge and reason are limited. Oh, if a person could know which is worse and longer, suffering due to the withdrawal from addictions or torment in fiery hell. Confronting the nafs. Know, O my son, that in a person's struggle against his nafs, there are many benefits. However, in following and pleasing the wishes of the nafs lies the source of all ills. As an argument is sufficient to cite the unanimous opinion of scholars and sages of all time, that opposition to the nafs is the key to all blessings, and that the basis of all evil is submissive adherence to the desires of the nafs. Theological scholars also consider countering the nafs as the basis of the worship of Allah, emphasizing that the slaughter of the nafs with the swords of resistance are one of the most important tasks of the tariqah. They say, let the nafs of one who enters our path taste 4 varieties of death: red, black, white, and green. By red death is meant the confrontation of the nafs and its desires, and the struggle against the temptations of worldly life, as well as the struggle against Iblis, Satan, and his assistants. The very color of this death serves to indicate passions and their suppression, that is death. Black death is the endurance of people's harm, and its blackness is a sign of the difficulty and severity of that on the nafs. White death symbolizes hunger. In this case, the whiteness of death is nur, light, which hunger casts on a person's soul, on his inner world. But green death is the wearing of patched old clothes and the rejection of beautiful apparel you may fancy. And life will, as it were, become green due to contentment with few worldly possessions. Indeed, Almighty Allah preordained the transmission of barakah, grace, from the struggle against nafs to each of his servants who resist his passions and desires, even if he not be a Muslim. It is said that a certain Christian monk became famous in Egypt for his knowledge of that which is innermost. To this, a Muslim scholar said, he must be killed before he plunges Muslims into error. And smearing his knife with poison, he went to him. When this scholar knocked on the monk's door, he said to him, O Muslim scholar, drop the knife. The scholar, throwing away the knife, entering and asked, how did you do this? To which the monk replied, thanks to opposition to my nafs. After these words, the scholar proposed, would you accept Islam? And the monk answered, yes, I testify that there is nothing worthy of worship except Allah, and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. In surprise, the scholar then asked, what motivated you to accept Islam? To this, the monk replied, I asked that my nafs accept Islam, but it refused. Then I did the opposite. So this man received a great benefit precisely from confronting the nafs. Opposition to the nafs bears fruit, insight, revelation of secret knowledge by the Almighty, and acceptance by Allah. However, agreeing with the nafs, indulging its passions, and doing everything it wishes, bring only debasement and procrastination on the pathway of knowledge of Allah. May Almighty Allah protect us from this. It is recounted that Ibrahim ibn Shayban said, "For a long time I wanted to eat lentils to the full, but I had no such an opportunity. And then one day when I was in Sham, Syria, they brought me a bowl of lentils, and I ate my fill. Going outside, I saw jugs hanging up with some kind of liquid. I thought that this was vinegar. They asked me, 'What are you looking at?' 'These are samples of wine, and here are barrels of wine.' Then I went into the cellar and began to destroy the wine barrels and poured out their contents. However, the shop owner thought that I was pouring out the wine on the orders of the Sultan. When he was informed of the true state of affairs, he took me off to the ruler, Ibn Tulun, who ordered me punished with 200 lashes with the cane and thrown in jail. I sat in prison until my mentor, Abu Abdullah al-Maghribi, arrived in that city and interceded for me. Afterwards, he asked me, 'What did you do?' To which I replied, 'I wanted to eat my fill of lentils and did so, after which they punished me with 200 lashes with the cane.' To that the Sheikh declared, 'You still got off lightly, neither harming yourself nor others.' Once a person who was sitting in the air without any support was asked how he managed to do this. To which he replied, 'I abandoned the desires of my nafs, and the air became subject to me.'